The 60-day negotiation window with Iran expires today. And what we're watching at this hour, the radical Islamic regime claims it now has full control over the critical oil shipping waterway, the Strait of Hormuz. In fact, Iran held negotiations with another country, Oman, about possibly imposing fees for ships to travel through the strait. President Trump has said time and time again they do not control the strait, and he is warning Oman to not get involved. There will be serious consequences if Oman does. I'm Harris Faulkner. You are in the Faulkner Focus. There are reports of more threats from Iran against President Trump and our American warriors in the region. Iran's military reportedly offering a $30,000 bounty for any Iranian citizen who captures or kills a U.S. service member. And a top Iranian lawmaker posted this: the President of the United States, instead of his endless bluffs regarding the Strait of Hormuz, should be thinking about securing his own safety so that he doesn't have to resort to fleeing to a food truck. A reference, obviously, to a secret plane switch in Turkey upon news of possible Iranian assassination plots against the president. And the president is not budging on the top priority with all of that distraction that they're trying to say in that post. Here's what he posted. The number one goal is, and always will be, that Iran cannot have, in any shape or form, a nuclear weapon. Here's Indiana Senator Jim Banks.
First and foremost, President Trump is the only president in 47 years who's had the guts to take on the regime in Iran and let them know they're not going to get away with it. Now, Iran is they continue to act out. We know that these are evil people who, at the same time that President Trump is trying to negotiate with them, are calling for death to President Trump or calling for bounties on our own troops. And President Trump is going to hold them accountable for that.
U.S. CENTCOM Commander Admiral Brad Cooper visited the USS at Abraham Lincoln over the weekend amid questions over conditions on board that ship. Commander Cooper praised the crew, which then headed home from an extended stint in the Middle East. Former Trump Deputy National Security Advisor Victoria Coates is with me in Focus. First, I want to go to Lucas Tomlinson at the White House. Lucas.
Well, good morning, Harris. Well, the memorandum of understanding with Iran officially expires today. It essentially expired last month at the NATO summit in Turkey when President Trump said it was essentially dead after Iran attacked those ships in the Strait of Hormuz, ending the ceasefire.
Is the ceasefire done? Is the MOU dead?
It's a very interesting question. To me, I think it's over. I don't want to deal with them anymore.
As you mentioned, Harris, the USS Abraham Lincoln has been at the center of attention in the Iran conflict when the nearly 37-year-old warship was forced to remain at sea for over 250 days without a port call because of supply issues and because you can't park a 100,000-ton aircraft carrier on the pier within range of Iranian drones and missiles. And the head of U.S. forces in the Middle East, Admiral Brad Cooper, visited the carrier at sea in recent days and penned an op-ed in the Wall Street Journal and addressed concerns from some families about their loved ones, writing, quote, USS Abraham Lincoln performance for the ages. Issued related to food, hot water, other concerns happened months ago and were addressed by leadership and resolved. And Acting Navy Secretary Hung Cao also posting, here is the truth. 266 days deployed, 200 days in a combat zone, 100,000 plus sorties, 1.5 million pounds of ordnance dropped, and retention rates among the Abraham Lincoln are among the highest of all carriers. And Admiral Cooper has ordered the Lincoln home. It'll take about a month for her to return to her home port in San Diego. The USS George Washington is making her way and their strike group into theater as we speak. And just for context, Harris, right now the U.S. Navy has 11 aircraft carriers. At the height of the Reagan buildup in the 1980s, the U.S. Navy had 15. Harris?
So we are fast approaching. I believe that's your point, correct?
Just pointing out the U.S. Navy today is about half the size it was during the 1980s. We're about 300 ships now. We had about 600 during the 80s and during the Gulf War. And the U.S. Air Force as well. We have about half the number of fighter jets today than we did during the Gulf War, Harris.
Yeah, making that point of just how much of that reduced number we have deployed. Thank you very much. Victoria Coates now, former Deputy National Security Advisor to President Trump, also Vice President of the National Security at Heritage Foundation. Great to see you today. I want to jump right in on where Iran is in all of this. Threatening our president, threatening our troops. The IRGC is said to have really bulked up. I'll get some details on that in a moment. But where do you put the enemy at this point? Can we still talk to them?
Well, good morning, Harris. And yes, we could talk to them. I agree with the president. I'm not sure how far that's going to get us at this point. And some of his comments earlier today, about how they need to wave the white flag, that's what we're really grinding towards here. And this is mostly going to be economic now, but economic bolstered by the fact that he's the only president who's been willing to take this kind of dramatic kinetic action against Iran in Operation Epic Fury, which has so further weakened them that they can't recover from what has already happened to them economically and what Secretary Bessent has said is going to happen this week. So I think we are going to push them closer and closer to collapse. And then what's left of their leadership will have to make a decision. Do they want to, as the former Supreme Leader said, drain the poison chalice, or do they want to actually come to a reasonable deal and preserve something?
Look, we haven't talked about China and Russia in a while. Just lean in on that for a bit, because we know that the technology can rest with either one of those countries. And while Russia may not have a lot more money for war, they would certainly not, back away from being involved with Iran. I mean, they seem to be friends.
Well, friends is an interesting term. I mean, they are partners of convenience, and China is showing very little willingness to actually do anything material. They're giving them intelligence. There may be some extremely limited weapons sales, but China has been quite cautious, and I would watch China this week when these additional sanctions are introduced. If what's rumored in terms of secondary sanctions on the Chinese financial network come to pass, China is going to have a pretty easy choice between them. Do they want to continue to do business with Iran, which is a losing bet, or do they want to continue to do business with the world's largest economy and the keeper of the Federal Reserve? I mean, China's going to act practically there. They're not going to be emotional about this.
Look, I want to get to this from the Wall Street Journal, which is reporting that intercepted communications suggest Iran used the ceasefire time, these 60 days, not to seriously negotiate, but to buy time for a larger attack down the road. And to that end, the regime has given the Islamic Revolutionary Guard more control, appointed hardened war veterans to take some key posts, expanded domestic counterintelligence operations, and ramped up missile and drone production. A defense analyst close to the Iranian government told the Journal, quote, "There is a widespread view in Iran that the main war has not yet begun." Victoria, your reaction.
Well, Harris, what I see there is intercepted communications, which makes me happy. I'm glad to know we're listening to this. We're watching it. We probably have a lot more detail on whatever plot that they're hatching, so they can't communicate securely. That tells them that, for starters. For second, I mean, the Iranian military is in no position to do much against the kind of American forces that are in the region. And as long as we're aware of what they're doing, we're taking away their element of surprise. This would be another catastrophic mistake on the part of the Islamic Republic, who's already made terrible, terrible errors in terms of shelling their neighbors indiscriminately, UAE, even Jordan, even Egypt, Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, Qatar, all of their former, neighbors, or they're still their neighbors, but were willing to have some partnership with them, are now united against them. So if they make the mistake of going after, a country like Kuwait, they are going to have a really, really bad regional response awaiting them.
Well, and what everybody knows today, what we're all learning, is that except for Oman and the Strait of Hormuz, if they can try to get something going with them, and the president says, don't do that, Oman, serious consequences. Victoria Coates, thank you very much.
Be sure to like and subscribe for all the Fox News latest on YouTube, and catch full shows streaming now on Fox One.